All right, so we are diving into the world of Baruch Spinoza today, and specifically his work, Ethics. Um, I've got my notes here, a couple articles, even that biography you started, ready to unpack some serious philosophical gold here.
Oh, I'm always up for a good Spinoza deep dive. He's one of those thinkers that can really make your brain do backflips, but like in a good way.
Yeah, tell me about it. But before we get too far into the mind-bending stuff, let's set the stage a little. So picture this, right? It's the 1600s. Spinoza, this Jewish philosopher,
Mm.
is basically like totally ostracized by his community for his radical ideas. I mean, we're talking full-on excommunication here. Can you imagine, like, being banished for your thoughts?
Honestly, it's hard to even fathom that in our world today, like free speech, internet forums, everything. But yeah, back then, questioning religious orthodoxy, that was some risky business.
Yeah, total understatement. And here's the thing that always gets me, right? So Spinoza, he wasn't some like cloistered academic, you know. This guy was out there like literally grinding lenses for a living. So he's crafting these ways to see the world literally more clearly while like simultaneously crafting these mind-blowing philosophical concepts. It's such a fascinating contrast.
It really is. And honestly, I think that practical hands-on experience that really fed into his philosophy. He was so grounded in the physical world in shaping, like literally shaping and refining lenses. And it seems like that really influenced his ideas about God, nature, even our own place in the universe.
Okay, so let's talk about Spinoza's God, because this is where things get really, really interesting and honestly, still a little controversial, even all these centuries later. So he basically says that God and nature are one and the same. And I don't just mean similar or inspired by, he's saying they're literally inseparable. So like, how does that even work?
Right. It's a radical concept. So Spinoza believed in something called substance, and it's the single independent thing that basically is like the foundation for everything else that exists. And for him, the substance wasn't some like, distant deity in the clouds. It was both God and the entire natural world, just like totally interwoven so completely that they were essentially the same thing.
So it's not that we're praying to a God out there. It's more like we're already in God, like the trees, the stars, even like, I don't know, a traffic jam. It's all part of this one divine substance.
Exactly. And it means like seeing the divine in literally everything around us, not as something separate, not above us. I mean, imagine that shift in perspective, right?
Right.
It's no longer about humanity being God's greatest creation, but rather we're just one expression among many of this single, like, unified reality.
Okay, I'm starting to see why this got him in some hot water back in the day. This isn't just like tweaking a few theological points. This is like a whole different cosmic playing field. So how does this God as nature idea play out in his overall philosophy then?
Well, it's really the bedrock for everything else he writes about. Take, for example, his concept of how we even understand reality, right? Like,
Okay.
he breaks it down into these two fundamental aspects, thought and extension.
Okay, break that down for me. Thought seems, I don't know, pretty straightforward, right? Like our thoughts, feelings, dreams. But what about extension? What's that all about?
So think of extension as like the physical realm, everything that you can experience with your senses. So your phone, the ocean, the feeling of the sun on your skin, like that's all extension. It's like the physical manifestation of that single substance.
So like the inside world and the outside world. But Spinoza didn't see those as separate. Right.
Not at all. He believed there were two sides of the same coin. So he's saying your mind, right, with all of its complexity, and your body with all of its physicality, they're both just different expressions of this one underlying substance, that he identifies as God or nature.
Whoa. Okay, so it's like he's found this missing link between the physical and the mental. And it all goes back to this one, like ultimate reality.
Yeah.
It's a pretty profound concept when you actually stop and think about it. Like everything we experience internally and externally, it's all interconnected at this really, really deep level.
Right. And this isn't just some like abstract philosophical idea. Spinoza believed this interconnectedness actually had some like really profound implications for how we understand ourselves and our place in the universe, especially when it comes to this idea of freedom, which, kind of leads us to his concept of determinism.
It's determinism. All right. You said this was going to be a brain workout, so lay it on me. What is the deal with determinism and what does it have to do with freedom?
Okay, so in a nutshell, determinism for Spinoza, means that everything that happens is this inevitable result of what came before. So every choice we make, every thought we even have, is part of this like unbroken chain of cause and effect, stemming all the way back to the very nature of that fundamental substance.
So are we basically all just along for the ride? Like, no free will, no say in the matter? If it's all predetermined, does that mean that we're basically just robots acting out a pre-programmed script?
It's a question that has like haunted philosophers for centuries. And while it might sound like Spinoza is saying that we're totally powerless, his perspective on freedom is actually quite radical. For him, true freedom wasn't about having like unlimited choices, but it was about understanding the necessity of things. It's about knowing why things happen, not just that they do.
Okay, so instead of rebelling against the script, it's about understanding the script so well that you can, like, I don't know, maybe predict the plot twist. Is that what you're saying?
I like that analogy. Imagine being caught in a rip current, right? If you panic and you fight against it, you'll just get exhausted and swept away. But if you understand how rip currents work, you can swim sideways, parallel to the shore, until you're out of the pool, and then you can swim back to safety.
So it's about understanding the forces that are shaping our lives and then working with them, not against them. That is definitely a very different way of looking at freedom.
Exactly. And for Spinoza, that understanding that alignment with the natural order of things, that was the key to like living a fulfilling life.
And I'm guessing that's where ethics comes in. So it's not just about understanding how the universe works, but figuring out how to live a good life within that framework.
Yeah, exactly. Ethics is almost like Spinoza's like guidebook for how to navigate life in this deterministic universe. You know, it's about understanding the rules of the game, so to speak, and then figuring out how to like play it skillfully, but also ethically.
Okay, I am ready to level up my ethical gameplay. Where do we even begin? Like, if everything's part of this grand, interconnected system, how do we even know what the right moves are?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. Remember Conatus, that innate drive to survive and thrive that we talked about?
Yeah, like our built-in survival mode, right?
Yeah.
The urge to eat, find shelter, connect with others, all that, basically everything that just screams, I want to keep existing.
Exactly. And Spinoza believed that this conatus, it wasn't just about like basic survival. It was about fulfilling our potential, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like becoming the best versions of ourselves that we can be within this interconnected reality.
So it's not just about staying alive, it's about like thriving, reaching for something more.
Precisely. Think of it like, I don't know, like a sunflower reaching for the sun, right? It's not just passively existing, it's actively seeking out the conditions that it needs to like flourish. And Spinoza believed that humans, we have that same drive, that same urge to like grow and evolve.
That's a pretty like empowering way to look at it. But like if we're all driven by this desire to thrive, how does that then translate into an ethical framework, you know? Wouldn't that just lead to everyone just looking out for number one?
See, that's where reason comes in. Spinoza believed that by using our reason, by understanding this interconnected nature of reality, we can then make choices that support not just our own flourishing, but the flourishing of others. It's about recognizing that like we're all a part of this grand web of life, you know? Our actions, they have ripple effects.
So it's not about denying our desires, like suppressing our individual needs, but it's about recognizing that true fulfillment, true joy, actually comes from like aligning our actions with something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. It's about understanding that what's good for the hive is ultimately good for the bee. It's a perspective that really encourages like cooperation, understanding, and compassion as pathways to like not just individual well-being, but collective well-being as well.
It's such a like radical concept, especially for like his time.
Yeah.
But I can also see how much it resonates even more strongly like in our modern world with like all of its interconnected challenges and complexities and all of that.
Absolutely. And you know, even though Spinoza talks about all of these like really deep philosophical concepts, he wasn't just like, you know, sitting in an ivory tower pondering the meaning of life. He really believed that these ideas had like real practical implications for how we live, how we interact with each other, even how we like deal with our emotions.
Speaking of emotions, I am curious about Spinoza's take on those. Didn't he have some like pretty unorthodox views about about how emotions work and even how we can like master them.
He did. And understanding his perspective on emotions, I think, can be really, really helpful for like navigating our own internal landscapes, even all these centuries later. So Spinoza, he believed that we're often like controlled by our emotions without even like realizing it, especially those negative ones like fear, anger, resentment.
Okay, yeah, that feels incredibly relatable. I've definitely had moments where like my emotions got the best of me. So how do we like break free from that cycle according to Spinoza?
Well, he believed that the key was to understand our emotions, like to see them not as this separate, like irrational force, but as natural responses to the world around us. And so he distinguished between what he called the like passive emotions, the ones that just kind of like happen to us, and active emotions, the ones that we like cultivate through reason and understanding.
So it's about becoming more aware of our emotional patterns
Mhm.
and then learning to like choose our responses instead of just like reacting.
Exactly. Think about it this way. Imagine, right, you spill coffee all over your favorite shirt right before this big presentation. And so your immediate reaction might be like, ugh, frustration, anger, right? Totally passive emotional response. But what if you took a moment to just like observe that anger without judgment? You might realize that getting upset isn't going to unspill the coffee or magically fix your shirt. You can then choose a different response, you know? Maybe even find like the humor in the situation and then move forward with a clearer mind. That's moving from a passive to an active emotional state.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's about recognizing that we have like more agency in our emotional lives than
Right.
we often realize. How does this all then tie back into ethics and living a good life?
Well, see, for Spinoza, cultivating these active emotions, particularly like love and joy, this was essential to living like an ethereal and fulfilling life.
Hmm.
He believed that the more we understand the world and our place in it, the more we experience these positive emotions like naturally. It's about shifting from a place of fear and scarcity to a place of understanding and abundance.
It's like that saying, understanding is the key to compassion. Like the more we understand ourselves and the world around us, the more we can then approach like everything with love and with empathy. I'm sensing a theme here.
Absolutely. And it's a theme that runs through like all of Spinoza's work. This idea that understanding is the key to freedom, to happiness, to living a truly ethical and fulfilling life. And one of the most fascinating things about Spinoza is that he doesn't just tell us like what to think, but he gives us tools for how to think.
It's like he's saying, here's your philosophical toolbox. Now go build yourself a more meaningful life.
I love that. And one of the most like important tools in that toolbox is this concept of adequate ideas, which is like the pathway to achieving this kind of understanding that he's talking about.
Okay, so we're about to upgrade our mental software. What are adequate ideas and how do we use them to like level up our thinking?
Okay, so for Spinoza, an adequate idea, it wasn't just like, any fleeting thought or random opinion you might have. It was an idea that was like really clear and distinct and like logically connected to other ideas. It was about like really having a solid like foundation of understanding, of the underlying principles and causes of things, not just seeing the surface level.
So it's like going beyond like just having an opinion about something, but actually like understanding the why behind it. Like instead of just saying, "Oh, I love chocolate," it's more about understanding like the chemical processes at play, the cultural significance, even like the economics of chocolate production.
Exactly. It's about connecting those dots, seeing like how things fit into the larger scheme of things. And Spinoza believed that we arrive at these adequate ideas through a combination of things,
Huh.
like careful observation, definitely logical reasoning, and what he called intuitive knowledge.
Okay, I was with you on observation and reasoning, but intuitive knowledge sounds a little, I don't know, a little woo-woo. Was Spinoza secretly a mystic?
Not quite, not quite. For Spinoza, intuition wasn't about like gut feelings or psychic powers or anything like that. It was really about grasping those fundamental principles of reality through like a kind of direct like intellectual insight, like that aha moment,
Mhm.
when you suddenly see the solution to a problem or the connections between like seemingly totally random ideas.
So using both our analytical minds and those like flashes of insight to kind of reach a more complete understanding of things. Sounds like he's encouraging us to like embrace the full spectrum of our cognitive abilities.
Exactly. And he believed that
Yeah.
the more we like cultivated this kind of deep, like multifaceted understanding, the more we could then live in alignment with our true nature, with the nature of the universe, and ultimately experience the freedom and the joy that comes with living that ethical life.
It's a pretty powerful concept when you think about it, that true fulfillment comes from like aligning ourselves with something so much bigger than ourselves,
Yeah.
something that encompasses both the logical and the intuitive.
It is. And while, Spinoza's work can be like pretty dense at times, I'll be honest, pretty complex, at its core, there's this real like beauty to it. This sense of like awe and wonder at the vastness of the universe and our place within it. It's not about, diminishing the miracle of existence, but rather it's about finding like even deeper meaning in understanding the intricate workings of that miracle.
It's like he's saying, like, yeah, the universe is governed by these like immutable laws, but that's not a limitation. It's like it's a source of profound beauty and even wonder.
Precisely. It's about finding this sense of peace, this sense of acceptance within that framework, but also recognizing, our power to then make choices that are aligned with the good of the whole. It's a perspective that really fosters like humility, gratitude, and a deep, deep appreciation for the interconnectedness of like all things.
That's a powerful message.
Yeah.
And it feels like incredibly relevant to like our world today, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Like, especially in a world grappling with such like complex challenges, climate change, social justice, remembering our interconnectedness, like it feels more important than ever.
Absolutely. Spinoza, he reminds us that we're not these isolated individuals just navigating our own little worlds, We're part of something so much grander, and our actions, they have ripple effects. It's a call to recognize our responsibility, not just to ourselves, but to the well-being of the whole.
So as we wrap up our deep dive here into Spinoza's ethics, I think I'm left with this one thought.
Yeah.
If, as Spinoza believed, we are all just part of this one like grand unified substance, this interconnected web of life, how will we choose to live? What kind of impact will we make on the whole?
That's a powerful question to like sit with, isn't it? It's a call to like move beyond just the self and embrace this more expansive, more compassionate way of like being in the world. And I think ultimately it's a reminder that understanding our place in the universe, it isn't just some like intellectual pursuit. It's a pathway to a more ethical, more fulfilling, and ultimately a more joyful existence.
It's a legacy that definitely continues to inspire and to challenge us, centuries later. A big thank you to our resident Spinoza expert for guiding us through all the twists and turns of this philosophical labyrinth.
Always a pleasure to explore these big ideas with you.
And to our listeners, keep those adequate ideas flowing. See what new insights blossom for you. Until next time, happy pondering, everyone.